Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the Voncast Show. I'm your host, Vaughn. Hope y'all are doing well this Friday. Today is another solo episode. I'm going to get into some stuff that happened over the week and then talk about my 18 months of clean time, which I celebrated this week, April 9th, on a Tuesday to be exact. So today is a solo episode, probably going to be on the shorter side, but wanted to stay consistent and record anyways. Last week, I was sick, had a sore throat. I think it's going around work. Handful of people are calling out due to feeling sick. So, stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask, whatever you think will help. But yeah, it wasn't COVID. It was, I think it's just a sore throat. Really weird one. I'm so stoked that I got that good insurance. Able to visit urgent care for like $25 before it used to be more. And so, yeah, I went last week, was not feeling well, but I think I needed that rest, took a day off and had 2 days off in between the day off. So it was like 3 days off essentially, which was pretty cool. But yeah, I feel like I needed that time off, which was nice. And in that time, I was able to just rest. I got some steroids for the first time, corticosteroids. It helped with a sore throat. But what I really didn't like was the side effect of insomnia. I really enjoy my sleep these days. Back when I would be using stuff that would keep me up all night. So it kind of gave me a reminder of that, minus the fun part. I just didn't like staying up all night and just having 3 to 4 hours of sleep. I remember the next morning when, I only had 3 or 4 hours of sleep. I went to the grocery store. I felt I was kind of lost. Like I didn't know where things were and everything. And I go to this grocery store frequently. So I think that was because of the lack of sleep. So that was that. And last Friday, I think I could have recorded, but I told myself, why strain your throat? Why strain my voice? I could record, it would just be a little uncomfortable. And I got plenty of episodes I can just re-upload, So that's what I did. So I'm stoked for that. So just a sore throat. I had to deal with some congestion afterwards. It sucked, but I'm glad it wasn't COVID. And yeah, went back to work. Day after Friday, day after I was supposed to podcast, but didn't. And so, yeah, that was last week. And then this week, man, it's a trip. So there's a guest I've been meaning to get on the podcast for 2 years now, but she's been busy. And, sent emails back and forth. Figured, hey, she's busy. I'm not going to keep bugging her, but I think it was last month I reached out, hey, how's it going? Just following up. And so to my surprise, on Tuesday, no, it was on Monday, earlier this week, Monday, I was on break at work and I got a message. One of my DMs, one of my email of this guest responding, hey, are you able to podcast tonight? Maybe tomorrow morning? I couldn't at nighttime that day because I was at work, but I could in the morning. I was so stoked. I was like, wow, finally, I know she's busy and I'm glad I got this opportunity. Initially, I said, oh, can we reschedule? Sat on that for like a few minutes and then sent it. I think I told myself, oh, I don't have enough prep time. I don't have any questions written out. But I had the day off the next day, so I unsent that message. And I said, yeah, let's go for 8 a.m. the next day. I'm so glad I did. I think that is me clinging to the comfort zone. So for those who don't know, I like to prepare ahead of time, send questions out beforehand, do some research, and before I do the podcast episode. And I told myself, maybe, if I reschedule again, who knows, maybe another 2 years until we can get another episode in. So I said, I'll just do the podcast episode the next day. So on my lunch break at work that day, I started, writing questions on my phone. And that night, I wrote some more too. And the podcast went well the next day. The only bummer part was we couldn't get the video working on her side, but we got the audio. It was a fun conversation. And I say that because I think there's still that part of me sometimes that really wants to stay in my comfort zone. And I got to be mindful of it because sometimes I'm just worried. I'm just worried it won't work out, or I'm afraid that it's going to go bad when opportunities like that, they don't always come up. Just a guest I've been wanting to talk to for 2 years. I'm a fan of her work. And, I think I just wanted everything to be perfect in the sense of, let me, write out some good questions and whatnot. But sometimes you just got to go with it. I think the questions I asked were good and the conversation went really well. So that was this week. Stoked for that. That was a cool podcast episode. That'll be available next week. And on that same day, surprisingly enough, was my 18-month anniversary of staying clean. It's a trip. I have a song coming out soon next week. Also, I think it's called Back Then. And it's like I said, back then feels like another lifetime. On the drugs, wasn't in my right mind, didn't dig deep, scared of what I might find, must have relapsed 105 times. That's the hook. And yeah, it feels like a lifetime. 18 months is not very long, but it definitely feels like a lifetime ago that I was using, because in those 18 months, a lot's changed. Just everything from how I view myself, how I feel about myself, how others perceive me, my finances, my overall health. And, it's so trippy, man. Like, going back to those days, it feels like, again, a lifetime where I was just so focused on straight up using and nothing else mattered. Now things are getting better little by little. Definitely some more, life stuff that happens. This week also, I was checking my bank statement on my app. I got a charge for $109 for booking a hotel, a Hilton hotel room in Memphis or whatever. So that wasn't me. Called my bank, called Hilton, and, depending how it goes, if the charge doesn't go through, gets knocked off, cool. But if the charge goes through, the bank will start investigating. It's like the third time this has happened to me in the past couple of years. I don't know how often identity theft happens for y'all, or like credit card fraud. But it's funny. I make a joke that, man, when I was using, I never got hit with a fraudulent activity on my bank account. I really never did. There was never any such charges or anything. It was all me. So I make that joke like, what the heck happened? I think I have more money now. Back then, you probably couldn't take money out of my account because all of it was going to drugs. That was kind of funny. So I'm just trying to be level headed about it. Just it's happened before. I got the money back. This time it's not a lot of money. It's still a lot of money, $109, but back then it was like 6 times that amount. So hoping the best for that. And so yeah, 18 months. 18 months clean. Couple of things I've learned for sure, or I've noticed. The idea of getting high and drinking is not very appealing anymore. I don't really even entertain the idea. I mean, like, yeah, I kind of do, when there's beer around me or alcohol, whatever. I kind of remember, oh, I remember what that tastes like. Oh, I remember how it made me feel. But I don't really have the urge to buy anything. For drugs, I mean, I still think about the idea of using, but never like, oh, today let's go use. You know, um, I think just being persistent with a program I work has helped me to kind of not really even go through with it. Because I know I can get so and so, I can get something for like X amount of money and I can get high. But now I just kind of know that it's kind of like a no brainer. Like, yeah, I could do it, but the consequences will be a lot worse. And I'll probably feel really bad about it. So, you know, uh, 18 months, the, the idea of getting high is not very appealing to me. I don't think about it in that sense anymore. So that's a good thing for those who are, in the early stages of recovery or earlier stages of recovery. And they're thinking about that, when does it go away? The thought of using go away. For me, around a year to 18 months, it's just not really, I don't really think about it like that anymore. But I will say that even though I don't have the urge to use and drink, I'm learning that addiction, that addictive behavior, it transfers to other things. So, for example, I bought a new pair of New Balance earlier this week. Never really owned a pair of New Balances before. I think they're very comfortable. And just in my head, I'm like, oh wow, maybe I should get a different color next time, or I want to get all the colors to this model. I like this model a lot. Oh, what about the other shoes? Yeah, they're a little more expensive. I can get them too. So that obsession, it transfers to other things. For me, at least. Maybe not to everybody, but I'm noticing that I crave that, like that activity that will release a large amount of dopamine with the least amount of effort. And it's something I have to be mindful of because sure, I'm not getting high with drugs and alcohol, but it can be a problem if I, start spending excessively on, shoes or clothes or even like tattoos or something, you know? So it's something I have to be mindful of. I don't worry so much about, oh man, like, I hope I stay, I hope that I don't do drugs today. I know I won't. That urge is pretty much gone. But the urge to, splurge or like go out excessively or do other things excessively, it's something I have to be mindful of, you know, and it's tough because now in my head, it's like, well, wow, I deserve to do this or buy this or that. I'm not doing drugs anymore. It's not going to kill me. True. But it can also be bad for my financials if I keep indulging uh, in buying stuff excessively and whatnot. So that's just something that I got to be mindful of. You know, I think I do it a lot with food too. I buy the food that I wasn't able to buy in the past because I'd be so broke, right? So I'm buying like the nice food or buying more of it. And I'm thinking to myself that I'm not even that hungry, but I think like, I feel like I'm buying it to make up for the past when I couldn't buy it. So now it's like, I want to treat myself. Bro, I just killed like a whole box of cookies, some kimbap, and like bulgogi rice. I don't think I needed to eat that much, but I did. For some reason, I feel like it'll make me feel better, or like it'll put me in like a food coma state where I'm not so anxious, you know? So yeah, that's there. And also too, I have been binge watching Final Fantasy remake. I'm a big Final Fantasy 7 person. I remember playing Final Fantasy 7 on PlayStation 1 when I was younger. Fell in love with the story and the characters, and it's just so cool to see it remade 20 something years later. I don't have a console. I want to get a PS4 or PS5 one of these days, but I can do without it now. But I'm really stoked that there's YouTube and people record the cutscenes. So Final Fantasy VII Remake, there's this video for like 13 hours. Obviously, I don't watch the whole thing in one sitting. I piece it out. I think I started last week or earlier this week. And it's just so cool to watch. You know, it's just really cool for the graphics, obviously, just the story. They changed some things up a little bit here and there, but that's what I've been doing. So yeah, it's Friday, so I'm going to a meeting tonight, getting my 18th month chip. I'm so stoked. You know, like whenever I think I have it bad, whenever I think I'm having a bad day, which I still have bad days, it's not as bad as when I was using. Like when I was getting high all the time, it was difficult sometimes to even look in the mirror, you know, and just, I don't want to look at my reflection because I knew like what I was doing wasn't good. Like I couldn't moderate. I couldn't just do a little at a time. I had to go all in. I think that's a personality trait that I have. I like to go all in, and a lot of things like when I discover new activities that I like, I go all in. You know, like I part of me wishes, oh, you know, I wish I could do that with nutrition or fitness, but haven't yet. I mean, I ride my bike a lot, but you know, I just go all in. I talked to another friend that used to party all the time too, and she even said that, you know, for us addicts, when we discover something new and we really like it, we it that that have that I that activity can consume us. They consume our thinking and would revolve everything around that activity. So yeah, and she said, hey, next time, you know, you're feeling that way, hit me up. We'll go for a hike. We'll get something to eat. It's so nice when I can just talk to her and just explain what I'm going through and how I'm feeling. She can relate. And the idea kind of mellows out for a bit. So it's really nice. That's why I really like talking to people now, talking to people I trust and people that can relate with that kind of stuff. So I think that's it. That's today's episode. 18 months. for those still new in the recovery period, it'll get better. It really will. It'll just take some time. And that feeling, the urge to use, it goes away, but you still got to be mindful of it. Because I just thought of something too. If for example, if I keep like buying a bunch of shoes and clothes, it'll feel good. I mean, part of me justifying it is that I don't really buy shoes and clothes all the time. I really haven't. And I could, and I want to. I think there's a limit because I feel like if I spend a bunch of my money on clothes and shoes, like too much of it, I will feel upset, ashamed of myself, etc. And that feeling of shame and guilt, if it's bad enough and it's not checked and I'm not mindful of it, I could relapse. There's been certain days where I thought to myself, wow, if this happened when I was using, if this event happened in my active addiction, if I felt this way in my active addiction, I'd pick up right now. I'd get high. But I just know that it won't solve anything, and I'm more mindful of it. I'm more conscious of my thought patterns. So that's something I'm learning too. Well, that said, that's it. Just tune in next week for another episode. Yeah, another episode. Dang, you know what? I think I might have to drop a podcast on Tuesday instead of Friday. I realize there's another guest whose podcast is more time sensitive. They have an event going on 420, which is, I think it's a Saturday or Friday, and I want to release their episode so we have time to promote their event. So the guest that I was talking about earlier on this episode, that is going to be not this Friday, but the next Friday. If that makes sense. I just realized that right now. All right. Take care. Have a good rest of your weekend. Enjoy.